Hello, and welcome to Statistics 2004, Introductory Statistics, also called an Introduction to Statistics, and I personally prefer to call it a Survey of Statistical Concepts. Now, I'd like you to use these tapes as a textbook. Do not use them to replace going to lecture. The material in the tape covers about 80% of the material in the lecture, but you really need to be there to get the full thing. Now, there are three types of people whose statistics have something to do with. The first group is the people who understand statistics. There's just a small group there. The second group, a little bit bigger, are those who use statistics. Those are the people who publish in newspapers, show their results and graphs and things in newspapers. The third group, much larger, are those of us who are bombarded by statistics every day. We read about it in the newspapers, we hear it in the news, and people are just quoting statistics to us all the time. And frankly, it's bewildering. This course is for the third group of people. Try and get you to not be bewildered, to understand what's going on, and don't let anyone pull the wool over your eyes anymore. That's what this is all about. Let's get started. The course is going to be full of concepts. The important thing is that we learn a concept, not that we learn details. You're not going to be statisticians. You're going to just try and understand what's going on. The reason for the concepts is so that we can get an understanding of statistics, what it means, how it affects us. What are those things people are telling us? We want to understand them. I'd like you to get a feeling for statistics, to have sort of a feeling so that you will know when things are right and when things are wrong. And this comes from experience. You really don't get feeling just by saying, I'd like to have it. You get some experience, and you then realize that this is okay or this doesn't feel right. What I'd really like you to do is to think statistically. Now that sounds simple, but really it's not as simple as it sounds. If you've taken a language, Spanish, French, Latin, you know you really don't understand the language until you can think in that language. Well, statistics is like a language. Statistics uses the same words, the same vocabulary that we use in everyday speech. However, the meaning of the words is slightly different. So when a statistician says something, he means something different than when someone else says something. And in order to think statistically means that you have to understand what the statistician is saying in his language. After all, he's speaking, so it's his language. What is he saying? What does what he says mean? This is what I'd like you to do. This is the hard thing. If you can do that, then you will have learned everything there is to learn in the course. All right, there's going to be some formulas in the course, but the formulas are not at all important. In fact, I put a line through it and say, no formulas. However, there will be formulas let me give you a simple reason why there's got to be formulas. You've taken this class in statistics, and someone says, well, you ever calculated a standard deviation? You say, no. And they say, well, then you didn't take a course in statistics. Not that it's important to calculate a standard deviation, but everyone would think that, well, if you've never done that, then you haven't had the same thing they had, because that's what they did when they took statistics, was use a lot of formulas and do a lot of calculations. And so I would like you to be able to respond honestly. Oh, yeah, I calculated a standard deviation. And under your breath you might say, but I'll never do it again. But don't let them hear that. So the formulas are going to be there. I want you to see them. And in homework assignments, you may even get to use a formula. The formula is in front of you. You plug some numbers in, you get an answer, and you can say, yeah, I've used the formula. And the important thing in the formula is that we understand it. We understand what the formula is trying to tell us. The formulas themselves are not important. What's important is an understanding of what they're telling us. And in the homework assignments, which is different from a lot of the other things we're going to do. There will be formulas, and you will be plugging numbers into the formulas, but then when you're all done with the homework, the only important thing is that you understand what it was that you were doing, and not necessarily the details. And the reason for all this is so that you can communicate. Communicate. That's the key word here, communicate. There's two kinds of communication. Communication means that when someone says something to you, you understand them. Well, when you read the newspapers and people are throwing statistics at you all the time, I would like you to be able to understand what they're saying. Not what it appears that they're saying, but what they are actually saying. The other part of communication is you communicating with somebody else. I don't expect anyone here, maybe, but not very many of you will become statisticians. However, I do expect many of you to go on and become an entrepreneur, the manager of a company, the boss in some sort of organization, the leader of a project, and you will find that you will need to use statistics. And realizing that you yourself don't know enough about statistics and really don't want to, you call in someone else who does. Now you have to communicate to that person what you want done. If you don't communicate properly, she will not do what you want her to do. I will be saying, by the way, she as a generic she from now on. He has been used as a generic he for so long that I've decided it would be better to give equal opportunity to the women, and so from now on when I have to say a generic he, she, I will usually use she. Okay? So when I say she in this case, I don't mean the statistician must be a she. It's a generic she. So you have to tell her what to do, and you have to communicate what you want. If the words don't match up what she's hearing and what you're saying, you're not going to get what you want. Then there's more communication in that relationship, because when she comes back and says, here are my results, you have to understand what it is she's telling you. Communication. That's why I want you to understand the concepts of statistics, to see the formulas, to know what's being done, to know what can be done, to know what cannot be done. Sometimes statistics can't solve a problem. You should know that. You should not ask for a problem that can't be solved, because somebody might give you an answer, and it's not going to be the right one. How do you do this? How are we going to succeed in doing well in this class? Well, first you read the assignments. Read the assignment. Now I have to talk about that. The assignment comes from, this is what it was last year, so to speak. Just a set of notes. They're not a textbook for the course. They're reading material which introduces you to the problem. There are 36 problems in the class, 36 topics. And each story in here introduces you to a topic. It's not a complete story. It doesn't tell you the subject matter. It sort of wets your whistle. It is not in any way to be used as a replacement for the lecture. The lecture will supplement it, the lecture will complement it, the lecture will amplify it, maybe even change some of the things that are said. It is merely an introduction. So read the assignment first. Then come in and listen to the lecture. When you listen to the lecture, you also take notes. If the notes are not that important, it's more important for you to understand what's being said than for you to write things down, because you can always come back to these tapes and see all the things that are written here in the lecture, that are written here in the tape, they will be in the lecture. I don't think they'll have very much in the lecture that isn't here in the tape as far as written material. So if you miss some of the words, you can always come back to the tape and get the words you missed. Okay? Then you go home and you do your homework. Remember, the homework may have formulas in it. The homework is slightly different than the rest of the class. I've said that. And the reason for that is this. In most of what we do, We want you to think a certain way, to think like the rest of us, to think like a statistician. And if you don't think like a statistician, well, then you're not thinking right. Of course, that's an over-exaggeration, but that's the idea behind it. We want you to think like us. At least make believe you think. At least show us that you can think like us. However, the homework is not like that. The homework is free. When you're asked a question in a homework, you answer it. But you must explain your answer, because there are different meanings to words, different shades to words, and you may be interpreting things in a different way than the person next to you, than I am, than anyone else is. And I want you to have the ability to explain your answer, to explain how you came about your answer, why your answer is what it is. And if the logic behind what you're saying is correct, even if we don't agree that that's the best way to do it, if we think it's correct, then you'll be given credit for that in homework. In homework, we want free thinking. We want you to express yourself. Okay? That's what the homework is. The homework is free. You get partial credit for saying some things, and you get full credit for saying not what we would say, as long as what you're saying really makes sense. Okay? That's the homework. Then I want you to tend recitation. The recitation will amplify the material you learn in class. Now, in a class of size 300, it's very difficult to ask questions. In the recitation, you're down to about 30 or 40, and you can ask questions and you can get questions answered a lot better in a recitation than in a big lecture. So the recitation is really your link to clarify the misunderstandings, the things that weren't clear in the class itself. Then study for the exams. Study for the exams. It's not that easy to study for an exam. I will tell you about exams in a moment. The exams are given at a random basis. You do not know exactly when an exam is given. You will know what material will be in the next exam, so you can study for it. And you pretty much know, well, it won't be given before Wednesday, but it might be given Friday or Monday, or maybe the following Wednesday. You have a pretty good idea when an exam is, but you won't know exactly when the exam is going to be given. It's given randomly. Right? Now, how are you going to get graded? There are 3 parts to the grade: homework, the weekly exams, and a final exam. The homework is worth 20% of your grade. There are actually 36 homework assignments. The top 30 will be counted. 6 of them will not be counted. So if you miss homework, you don't come to recitation and turn in your homework, and you fail to turn in 6, or you get zeros on 6, it will have no effect on your grade, because only the top 30 homework assignments will be counted. Weekly exams. Actually, there'll be 13 weekly exams, only 10 of which will be counted, the top 10. Actually, legally, there are 10 official exams and 3 makeup exams. However, everybody will be allowed to take the 13 exams. If you've taken all 13, the top 10 will be counted. If you've only taken 10, well, then that's fine. You've made up 3 of the exams you missed. That's worth 50% of your grade. So between the homework and the exams, all of which are graded by your recitation teacher, the GTA in the class, you will get 70%. The final examination is worth 30% of your total grade. There will be weekly exams. There will be 15 questions on each exam, and it'll take you about 12 minutes to complete an exam. The final exam, there will be 100 questions, and it will take you, you'll be given 2 hours. You won't need that much, 2 hours to complete that. I will be talking more in class about the final exam. It's a very interesting concept of how we make up the final exam. But this is how your grade will be: 20%, 50%, and 30%. Okay, what will your grades be? Now, you get a number, your grade will be a number. A number. What does that number mean? That's what's important. Now, what does that number mean? And on this next sheet, I will tell you what the official relation between the number and your grade is. Okay, officially. If you get 94 or above, you'll get an A. You go between 90 and 90, less than 94, 93.99, you'll get an A minus. 87 to 89.99, a B plus, and so on down the list. Now, this is the official score sheet. However, I have to have an influence in your grade somewhere. The GTAs are doing all the grading, and I want to have something to say. So I've reserved 2 rights for myself. One of them is the right to round off the numbers. Now, we said 93.99 is not a 94. Well, that's I don't like that. So I'm going to say, well, let the computer round the numbers to the closest whole number. So 93.5 will be rounded to 94. Now, all I will see is 94. 94 is a 94. Well, that's an A, okay? So actually, if you get 93.5, this is unofficial, it will be an A. Officially, anything below 94 is an A minus. That is, if you get there. Now, the second right I reserve for myself is the right to give everybody a 1-level boost. If I think you're doing well, you're trying hard, I will say, hey, this is a good class. I want to give them the break. And since I don't grade their papers, I can't be lenient in grading, or grading, I can't be lenient. So let me give the right to boost everybody a little bit. And that means, this is what it means, that if you get a 90, you'll get an A. See? 90 on up will be an A. 87 to 90, 87 to 89 and a half will be an A minus. 84 to 86 and a half will be a B plus. And so on, down the list. Okay? So if you get a 90, an 89.9, you'll get an A in the class, if I give you the boost. And I will be talking about the boost in class and see how it affects your grades and how the grades will appear on the list. There will be reports of where you are and what your grades is, your running averages and things, but I'll be telling you that kind of stuff in class. Now, I want you to take a note. Note, these tapes contain only 80% of the needed material. That is, these tapes are not meant to be a replacement for the lectures. You must come to lecture to get all the material. However, if you miss a lecture for a legitimate reason, I don't want you to say to yourself, oh, I'll never get that material, I'll never be able to pass the exam. You watch the tape, and you'll get 80% of the material, and any things off the cuff that are said in class, you can get from someone who was in class. Okay? I think that's all I have for the introduction. Have a nice day.